everyone, for this week's tutorial, I'm going into everything you can need to know about setting up and using sites in Dreamweaver. If you don't know how websites are structured, you might want to check out my 6th video fundamentals, what is a website, first. Also, I do mean everything, so if you're looking for something in particular, I'll be putting timestamps in the description for specific parts. Let's start by going in depth into how you can set up a site for any need you've got. First off, a site is basically a website you're linking to. It will consist of connecting to a server, either on the internet or on your own computer, and connecting to a folder on said server. If you're connecting to the part of the website where you see everything, you're connecting to public_HTML, or commonly called the root folder. To connect to a site, we'll need to go under the site menu in Dreamweaver and choose either manage sites if you have one made already, or new site if you don't, which is what we'll assume for the sake of this tutorial. When you hit new site, a window will open where you'll be filling in all the info you need. Starting at the first thing you see, there's the Site tab. In here, you can give your site a name. This is meant to keep your sites organized when you're doing multiple projects, so typically you'll name this after the client or site you're working on. Beneath that is the local site folder with a folder icon on the far right. This will be the default folder that automatically opens when you connect to the site, and you can either type the path of the folder on your computer manually or use the folder icon to open Windows Explorer or Finder. If you're just working on an HTML design on your own computer, this might be where you can hit save and get to the code. If you're working on a project that uses PHP or doing a design for a client on their own server, we can move on to the actual server tab. Off the bat, you'll need to go down to the bottom of this tab and hit the plus sign, which will then add a server and open the window in which you can set the settings for it. Like with the site, you'll want to give your server a name, again, typically the client or site. Under that is the type of connection your server uses. The types of connections are FTP, or File Transfer Protocol. This is the basic type of connection with a server. The SFTP, under that, is a more secure version of this. Both types of FTP over SSL/TLS are connections using a specific type of encryption. The local network will be used if you're using a local server, which is an offline server that runs on your own computer or locally, which you will see if you're using something like MAMP. WebDAV, or Web-Based Distributed Authoring and Versioning, is used on multimedia authoring servers with interactivity, as I understand it. Lastly, the RDS option is for use with servers that work with a programming language known as Cold Fusion. If you're working for a client that already has a site, you should be able to find out which of these the server uses, assuming you're actually given access to that info, which as a designer might not always be the case. If you are doing things for the project that are more on the dev side though, you will need that info as well as the address, username, and password. You can typically get these from the hosting company or from logging in if you're using something like cPanel. The address is the actual URL of where you're connecting to, such as http://www.google.com, while the username and password are pretty self-explanatory. Depending on which connection you're using, you may also have additional settings, such as whether you're using the username and password or a private key for SFTP, or what kind of authentication you're using for the SSL ones. For local network, you'll need to set where on your computer the server's folder is, such as htdocs if you are using MAMP. You can also choose to use the checkbox for save here, which will mean you don't have to enter the password every time you want to connect. Make the call yourself on if that might be a security issue. Under that, you can click test, which will make a connection and see if it can do that, or if there's an issue such as a capital letter in your password where there's supposed to be a lowercase. If it connects, you're good. Further down, there's the root directory. This is the folder you'll be connecting to on your server. This could be any folder on the server you want to connect to, from the root or public_HTML to your subdomains. When you type this, the web URL will automatically update, appending the root directory to the end of the FTP address. There are more options over in the advanced tab of the window too. Starting at the top, you can set whether to keep track of synchronization between the local and remote servers or not. Under that, you can also set so that if you're working on a file while connected to a server, when you save any updates, it will automatically overwrite the version on the server with the newest page. Beneath that are the checkout options. If you enable file checkout, it should be when you're working on a collaborative project. What checkout will do is mark the file on the server with a check mark, telling others that you're currently working on a file, so they should keep their hands off. The check mark will be red if someone else is working on the file, and will be green if you're the one who's using it. This will be used with the name and email address you enter under that. It should be noted that this only works with Dreamweaver though. People will still be able to download and edit files if they're using other applications. There will be an LCK file next to any checked out file on the server though, to tell others that the file is in use. Under those options is also the testing server settings. This is how you set things up so you can design and test dynamic pages, such as you would create with PHP and Ajax. It can be on your computer or an online server. If you click on the server model, you can choose what kind of testing environment you're working in for multiple types of ASP, Cold Fusion, or a PHP MySQL server. If you have automatically push files checked, it will sync files to the testing server on save. Lastly, if you choose to autosave dependent files, any files that are part of a design, such as a CSS style sheet or JS script document, will also automatically be updated when you save the document. The next item on the list is the version control. Use this if you're using a server that has Subversion set up. Subversion, or SVN, is a system that lets designers collaborate on the server by managing and editing the files. The same settings I've gone over for the server options apply here, with the address, protocol such as HTTP, HTTPS, or SVN, username, and password. The main difference is the repository path, which is the address on the server where it's set up, such as /svn/root or something like that. The last set of options is under the advanced settings menu. These, for the most part, let you set up some defaults for when you connect to make a faster workflow. Unrolling that will let you control a few other things. Starting at the local info, the first thing you can control is the default images folder. This would be the path of the IMG or images folder inside the root folder on your computer, or click the folder icon and navigate there. Dreamweaver will then automatically use that folder's path when adding images. Under that, you can set your links to be relative to the folders in your website or relative to an actual URL. Next comes the web URL, which is the URL of your site if you're using the site root link and don't already have a server set up. If you have case-sensitive links checking turned on, Dreamweaver will test the case of file names in your links. Last in the menu is whether you enable a cache or not, which is something used in browsers and computers to improve loading speeds by keeping a small copy of the file. Generally, this is a good thing to leave checked, particularly if you're using the assets panel, which I believe requires a cache to function. Under that comes the cloaking menu. This lets you enable cloaking, which removes certain files from being automatically uploaded when using put or get operations, which will come in a bit. You can also set this to cloak certain file types, such as PSD builder files, with the checkbox and menu beneath that. The next option lets you use design notes, which are notes created and associated with a file. You can use these to track extra file information for your documents, such as comments or the source files used. If you're collaborating, turning on upload design notes for sharing will let others in the project also see and work with these files. Beneath that is a Dreamweaver specific menu where you set what information will appear in your files panel. By default, these are things like the file name, size, type, modification notes, and markers for checked out files. You can edit them so you can show or hide any of these, as well as adding more options with the plus sign at the bottom. If you have any of them selected, you can also remove any that you've made with the minus symbol, edit them with the pencil, or move them up or down in the list with the arrows. If you're working as the admin for the server, you can set up contribute in the next menu. This lets you set up logging for edits and contributions made by your team, as well as letting you set limits on what people can do with the site. Under that is the templates window. If your site uses templates, which is a kind of document that you can use as a basis for other pages, you can set it here so the links in your existing pages won't be updated if you make changes to the template. After that comes the jQuery menu. This one's simple. Just like your image document, if you're using jQuery widgets in your design, you can set the path for where they're located by default here. Same thing for the next menu, except this would be where you set the default location of any OTF or TTF font files in your site. Lastly comes the animation assets, which lets you select the default location for any OAM files created if you're using Adobe Animate. As a side note, everything I've gone over so far is, more or less, the exact same things you'll need to do if you're using something other than Dreamweaver like FileZilla or NetBeans. Okay, that's setting up a site. Believe it or not, we're still not quite done. Say, instead of all that, you already have your site set up, and somewhere down the road, something changes. Passwords are updated, the server is given a security upgrade from FTP to SFTP, or something else happens that means you need to change the settings of your site. To do this, we go into the Sites menu again, but this time choose Manage Sites. In here, we'll be presented a list of all sites we've set up, which is where those names you chose earlier will apply. In here, pick the site that needs updating and click the pencil at the bottom. This will then open up the new site window again, make any changes you need, hit save, and the information will update for your site so it's working all over again. Simple and pretty painless, thankfully. As a side note, you can also import sites here if you have an STE file. And lastly, let's go over actually using the site. To do this, we'll need to open the Files panel and go over what the buttons do. Starting at the top left, we've got the Folder menu. Clicking on this will give you a list including your computer's files, commonly used folders, and any sites you've set up. Choosing a site in this menu should automatically connect you to your site if it's set up correctly. To the right of this is the Views menu. This lets you select local, remote, testing, or repository views. In order, the local view is going to show you the files and folders on your own computer. If you've connected to a site, this will default to whatever folder you set as the local site folder earlier. The remote view, meanwhile, will show you the files on the server side of the connection. If you pick Testing View, I can't actually find any documentation on it, but as far as I can tell, it shows you the complete view of your server, including usually invisible files. To use Repository View, you need to have set up a site with Subversion, and this will let you view the site with those settings. Under those, and on the far left, there's a symbol of a plug over an X or a check mark. This signifies if you're not plugged in or connected, with the check mark meaning you are connected correctly. Clicking this, you'll connect or disconnect to the site, depending on which you were prior. Right of that is a pair of arrows which when clicked will refresh the view and check for updated files. After that comes the down and up arrows. Clicking on these respectively will do get and put operations, otherwise known as downloading and uploading respectively. To the side of these are the check out and in files options. As I've said, you check out a file if you're working on it and want to let others know, and check it back in when you're finished up. Next is a smaller version of the circular arrow symbol. This is your synchronize button, which will overwrite files on both sides of the connection with whichever version is the most recently updated. On the far right is a small window icon. Click this and it'll pop your panel out into its own window. Under those icons is the search bar, which lets you quickly look for a specific file in the list. Lastly, you could click on any of the sections in the files panel below that, such as the name or size, and it will let you sort the files. And that was, I'm pretty sure, every single thing to do with Dreamweaver sites as of the making of this video. As always, I hope you've all learned something and enjoyed yourself doing it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or other feedback, you can let me know with a comment down below. You can also like this video and share it around, which helps with Google's rankings, and I'm planning to be back here every Friday, so be sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Have a great day, everyone.